Very difficult.
Arduous. For example, it was an arduous climb up the mountain. It was an arduous climb up the mountain.
Very dry.
Arid. For example, the desert is so arid that nothing can grow there. The desert is so arid that nothing can grow there.
Very bad.
Awful. For example, Daniel had been sick and he looked awful. Daniel had been sick and he looked awful.
Very short.
Brief. For example, his acceptance speech was mercifully brief. His acceptance speech was mercifully brief.
Very huge.
Colossal. For example, there was a colossal statue of the king in the middle of the square. There was a colossal statue of the king in the middle of the square.
Very expensive.
Costly. For example, this procedure can be costly. This procedure can be costly.
Very noisy.
Deafening. For example, the music of radio was deafening. The music of radio was deafening.
Very poor.
Destitute. For example, the floods left thousands of people destitute. The floods left thousands of people destitute.
Very upset.
Distraught. For example, she was distraught over the loss of her home in the flood. She was distraught over the loss of her home in the flood.
Very boring.
Dull. For example, I think he's pleasant enough, but deadly dull. I think he's pleasant enough, but deadly dull.
Very happy.
Ecstatic. For example, Billy was ecstatic about his new job. Billy was ecstatic about his new job.
Very easy.
Effortless. For example, he was an actor of effortless charm. He was an actor of effortless charm.
Very good.
Excellent. For example, this food was excellent. I really like it. This food was excellent. I really like it.
Very exciting.
Exhilarating. For example, it's exhilarating to climb mountains. It's exhilarating to climb mountains.
Very dirty.
Filthy. For example, look at these dishes, they are filthy. Look at these dishes, they are filthy.
Very strong.
Forceful. For example, she has a forceful personality, which will serve her well in politics. She has a forceful personality, which will serve her well in politics.
Very weak.
Frail. For example, at 90, our grandpa is getting very old and frail. At 90, our grandpa is getting very old and frail.
Very cold.
Freezing. For example, it's freezing in here. Can I turn off the air conditioner? It's freezing in here. Can I turn off the air conditioner? Another example, after walking through the snow, my feet were freezing. After walking through the snow, my feet were freezing.
Very angry.
Furious. For example, I was late and my boss was furious with me. I was late and my boss was furious with me.
Very beautiful.
Gorgeous. For example, the bride looked gorgeous. The bride looked gorgeous.
Very ugly.
Hideous. For example, she wears the most hideous color combinations you could ever imagine. She wears the most hideous color combinations you could ever imagine.
Very funny.
Hilarious. For example, her jokes are absolutely hilarious. Her jokes are absolutely hilarious.
Very warm.
Hot. For example, I like a hot chocolate milky drink at bedtime. I like a hot chocolate milky drink at bedtime.
Very quiet.
Hushed. For example, this man liked a hushed and dignified atmosphere. This man liked a hushed and dignified atmosphere.
Very stupid.
Idiotic. For example, stop asking such idiotic questions to me, Brian. Stop asking such idiotic questions to me, Brian.
Very smart.
Intelligent. For example, Sally is a highly intelligent person who can think outside the box. Sally is a highly intelligent person who can think outside the box.
Very bright.
Luminous. For example, they painted the wall a luminous green. They painted the wall a luminous green.
Very big.
Massive. For example, they have a massive house. They have a massive house.
Very small.
Petite. For example, she was dark and petite, as was her sister. She was dark and petite, as was her sister.
Very quick.
Rapid. For example, he kept up a rapid pace. He kept up a rapid pace. Very calm.
Serene.
For example, she has a lovely serene face. She has a lovely serene face.
Very slow.
Sluggish. For example, something is wrong with this car. The engine feels sluggish. Something is wrong with this car. The engine feels sluggish.
Very wet.
Soaked. For example, I'm going to have to take these boots off. I'm soaked to the skin. I'm going to have to take these boots off. I'm soaked to the skin.
Very sad.
Sorrowful. For example, Rachel's face looked suddenly soft and sorrowful. Rachel's face looked suddenly soft and sorrowful.
Very clean.
Spotless. For example, her home is spotless. Her home is spotless.
Very cheap.
Stingy. For example, he's really stingy and never buys anyone a drink. When we go out, he's really stingy and never buys anyone a drink. When we go out.
Very busy.
Swamped. For example, we've been swamped with phone calls. Since the advert appeared, we've been swamped with phone calls. Since the advert appeared.
Very little.
Tiny. For example, happiness is about having each tiny wish come true. Happiness is about having each tiny wish come true.
Very tall.
Towering. For example, the library was filled with rows of towering bookcases. The library was filled with rows of towering bookcases.
Very rich.
Wealthy. For example, Antonio is a wealthy man. Antonio is a wealthy man.